Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Perfect Morning. Gabriel Burton stood at his kitchen window, watching the morning sun paint golden streaks across his backyard. At 38, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen the worst humanity could offer and chose to build something better. His graying temples and the subtle scar along his jawline told stories he rarely shared, remnants of his decade in military intelligence before transitioning to cybersecurity consulting. "Daddy, look!" His 5-year-old son Tommy burst into the kitchen, clutching a pristine teddy bear with unusual burgundy fur and intricate golden stitching around its paws and ears. The craftsmanship was remarkable, too remarkable for a typical children's toy. "Where did this come from, buddy?" Gabriel knelt down, studying the bear more closely. Something about its weight distribution seemed off, and the fur had an almost oily sheen that bothered him. "Mommy gave it to me. She said it was from Aunt Crystal." Tommy hugged the bear tighter, and Gabriel noticed a faint chemical smell, barely perceptible but definitely there. Allison Burton entered the kitchen, her auburn hair still damp from her morning shower. She worked as a pediatric nurse at Mercy General, and her natural maternal instincts had made their small family feel complete. "Crystal dropped it by last night after you went to bed. She said she found it at some high-end boutique downtown." Gabriel's brow furrowed. Crystal Barton was Allison's younger sister, known for her impulsive purchases and questionable judgment. But this bear looked expensive, far beyond Crystal's usual budget as a part-time art teacher. "Did she say which boutique?" Gabriel asked, taking another closer look at the bear. The stitching pattern around the eyes seemed deliberately designed to avoid certain areas, as if concealing something beneath. "You know, Crystal, she probably doesn't even remember." "Gabriel, you're being paranoid again." Allison kissed his cheek, but he could hear the slight edge in her voice. She'd grown tired of his hyper-vigilant tendencies, an occupational hazard from his intelligence days. Tommy had already lost interest in the conversation and was making the bear fly around the kitchen, complete with sound effects. Gabriel watched his son play, that nagging feeling in his gut growing stronger. In his line of work, paranoia had kept him alive more than once. "I'm going to take a picture of it," Gabriel said, pulling out his phone. "Just want to show it to Ben Foster. You remember him, the toy designer I worked with on that product security consulting job last year." "Gabriel, it's just a teddy bear." Allison gathered her things for work, clearly exasperated. "Tommy loves it. Can't you just let him have one normal thing without turning it into some conspiracy?" The words stung because they carried a grain of truth. Gabriel knew he sometimes saw threats where none existed, but his instincts had been honed by years of real danger. He snapped several photos of the bear from different angles, making sure to capture the unusual stitching and the small, almost invisible tag tucked beneath one arm. After Allison left for her shift and Tommy settled in with his cartoons, Gabriel sent the photos to Ben with a simple message. "Thoughts on this bear? Something feels off." Ben Foster had spent 15 years designing toys for major manufacturers before becoming an independent safety consultant. His expertise in toy construction and materials made him invaluable to companies wanting to avoid liability issues. Gabriel trusted his judgment implicitly. The phone rang within minutes. "Gabriel." Ben's voice was tight, urgent. "Where did you get this bear?" "My sister-in-law brought it for Tommy." "Why? What do you see?" There was a pause, and Gabriel could hear typing in the background. "The stitching pattern, the weight distribution in your photos, the fiber composition based on the sheen. This isn't a commercial toy. This is custom-made, and expensively so. But more importantly, see that golden thread around the paws and ears." "Yeah, I noticed that. Decorative, right?" "No, that's not decorative stitching. That's a distribution pattern." "Gabriel, I think this bear might be designed to deliver something through skin contact. The golden thread creates channels that would allow a substance to migrate from an internal reservoir to the surface areas where a child would most likely touch." Gabriel's blood turned to ice. "Are you saying someone tried to poison my son?" I'm saying need to get that bear away from Tommy right now and get him to a doctor. If I'm right, every minute of exposure increases the potential dose. Gabriel was already moving toward the living room where Tommy played with the bear, pressing it against his cheek as he watched cartoons. Tommy, buddy, can Daddy see your special bear for a minute? No, he's mine. Tommy hugged the bear tighter, and Gabriel's heart hammered as he watched his son's skin make direct contact with those suspicious golden threads. Just for a second, son. Daddy wants to show you something cool about it. Reluctantly, Tommy handed over the bear. Gabriel immediately placed it in a plastic bag, sealing it carefully. His hands were steady, muscle memory from years of handling hazardous materials, but inside he was screaming, "Ben, I've secured the bear. What should I do about Tommy? Hospital. Now, tell them possible dermal toxin exposure from unknown source. They'll need to run a full blood panel and start supportive care immediately." Gabriel, Ben's voice cracked slightly. How long has he had this bear? Gabriel looked at Tommy, who was now rubbing his eyes sleepily despite being active just moments before. Since last night. Jesus, Ben, he slept with it. Go. Now. And Gabriel? This wasn't random. Someone specifically targeted your family. Chapter 2. The Blood Work. The fluorescent lights of Mercy General's emergency room cast harsh shadows across Tommy's pale face as he lay on the examination table. Dr. Maribel Kelly, the attending physician, had known Allison for years through their work in pediatrics, which both helped and complicated the situation. "Allison, I need you to step back and let me work," Dr. Kelly said gently but firmly as she drew blood from Tommy's small arm. The boy had grown increasingly lethargic during the drive to the hospital, and now his pupils were slightly dilated. Gabriel stood in the corner, his jaw clenched as he watched his son's condition worsen. He'd already explained the situation twice, once to the triage nurse and again to Dr. Kelly, but he could see the skepticism in their eyes. A poisoned teddy bear sounded like the delusions of a paranoid father. "The blood work will take about an hour," Dr. Kelly explained. "In the meantime, we're starting 4 fluids and monitoring his vitals." Gabriel's phone buzzed. Ben Foster had sent him a detailed technical analysis based on the photos, including possible toxins that could be delivered through the bear's design. Gabriel forwarded it to Dr. Kelly's tablet. "Doctor, my friend is a toy safety expert. This might help narrow down what to look for." Dr. Kelly glanced at the report, her expression shifting from skepticism to concern. "This is very detailed. Your friend thinks it could be a synthetic neurotoxin. Based on the delivery system, yes. Something that would absorb slowly through skin contact, but accelerate with prolonged exposure." Allison looked between them, her face pale. "You're really serious about this? Someone actually tried to hurt Tommy." Before Gabriel could answer, his phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he hadn't seen in 3 years, Clarence Lawrence. Gabriel's blood went cold. Clarence had been his partner in military intelligence until Gabriel discovered he was selling classified information to foreign contacts. Gabriel's testimony had put Clarence away for 5 years in federal prison, but that sentence had ended 18 months ago. He declined the call, but it rang again immediately. "Gabriel, who is it?" Allison asked, noting his expression. "Someone from my past." He declined again, but a text message appeared. "How's your boy feeling, Burton? Enjoying his new toy?" Gabriel's vision went red. He showed the text to Allison, whose face crumpled in horror. "Oh my God. Gabriel, who would do this?" "Clarence Lawrence, former military intelligence. I put him in prison 3 years ago." Gabriel's voice was deadly calm, the same tone he'd used when briefing assassination targets. He got out early for good behavior. Dr. Kelly looked up from Tommy's monitors. "I'm calling the police and the FBI. If this is intentional poisoning with military-grade toxins, we need federal involvement." Gabriel nodded, but his mind was already working on parallel tracks. The FBI would take hours to respond, and their investigation would take days. Tommy didn't have days. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Clarence. "You destroyed my life, Burton. Now I return the favor. The kid has maybe 72 hours before permanent neurological damage. Want to see him again? Come alone. I'll send coordinates." Gabriel stared at the message, calculating odds and possibilities. Clarence was using Tommy as bait for a trap, but it was also Gabriel's best chance to get the antidote quickly, assuming one existed. Gabriel. Allison touched his arm. You have that look. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about how to fix this. Gabriel kissed her forehead, then knelt beside Tommy's bed. His son's breathing was becoming more labored, and his skin had taken on a grayish pallor. Listen to me, buddy. Daddy's going to go get the medicine that will make you better, okay? You stay here with Mommy and the doctors. Tommy nodded weakly, and Gabriel had to look away to maintain his composure. Dr. Kelly pulled Gabriel aside. The preliminary blood work is showing elevated levels of several concerning compounds. Your friend was right. This appears to be a synthetic neurotoxin, probably designed to cause progressive nervous system damage. We can provide supportive care, but without knowing the exact compound. You need the antidote, Gabriel finished. How long does he have? If the progression continues at this rate, maybe 2 days before we start seeing irreversible damage. Gabriel nodded and walked back to Allison. I have to go. Where? To end this. Gabriel's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Call the FBI. Tell them everything. But I can't wait for them to build a case while Tommy gets worse. Gabriel, this is obviously a trap. Of course it is. But Clarence made one mistake. He thinks I'm still the same person he used to know. He has no idea what I've learned in the past 3 years. Allison grabbed his hand. What if you don't come back? Gabriel looked at his dying son, then at his terrified wife. Then make sure Clarence pays for what he's done. Chapter 3. The Trap Reveals Itself. Gabriel drove through the industrial district on the outskirts of the city, following GPS coordinates that led to an abandoned textile factory. The November air was crisp, and the setting sun cast long shadows between the empty buildings. He'd come armed, his Glock 19 concealed beneath his jacket and a tactical knife strapped to his ankle. But he knew Clarence would be expecting that. What Clarence wouldn't expect was the microtransmitter Gabriel had swallowed before leaving the hospital, designed to broadcast his location to Ben Foster, who was coordinating with FBI agent Terrence Costello. Gabriel had worked with Costello during his intelligence days, and the agent owed him several favors. The factory parking lot was empty except for a single black SUV. Gabriel parked 50 yards away, noting the tactical positioning of the vehicle, nose out for quick escape, positioned to monitor both entrances to the facility. Clarence hadn't lost his operational skills during his prison stay. Gabriel's phone buzzed. Building 3, second floor. Come alone, Burton. I have Tommy's antidote, but you have 1 hour before I dispose of it. Gabriel texted Ben, going in. If I don't report in 90 minutes, give Costello my location and tell him to bring a hazmat team. Building 3 was a 4-story brick structure with most of its windows broken out. Gabriel approached cautiously, using every piece of cover available while scanning for snipers or additional vehicles. The main entrance was propped open, another invitation into Clarence's web. The interior smelled of rust and decay. Gabriel's footsteps echoed on the metal stairs as he climbed to the second floor, his gun drawn but held low. At the top of the stairs, a single door stood open, light spilling out into the hallway. Gabriel Burton, a familiar voice called from inside, still skulking around corners like a ghost. Gabriel stepped into the doorway and saw Clarence Lawrence for the first time in 3 years. Prison had changed him. He was leaner, harder, with new scars across his knuckles and a serpentine tattoo crawling up his neck. His eyes held the cold calculation of someone who'd learned violence as a survival skill. Clarence. Gabriel kept his weapon ready, but didn't raise it. You look different. Prison will do that. Clarence sat behind a metal table, a small glass vial filled with clear liquid positioned in front of him. 3 years of learning what happens to former intelligence officers in federal lockup. You know what they call us in there, Gabriel? Rats. You were selling secrets to hostile foreign agents. You earned that reputation. I was surviving. Clarence's voice cracked with barely controlled rage. You think our government cares about us after we're used up? I had gambling debts, alimony payments, medical bills for my mother's cancer treatment. They knew about my financial problems and did nothing. So when someone offered me a way out, I took it. Gabriel studied the room, noting the exits, the security cameras Clarence had set up, and most importantly, the small laboratory setup in the corner, beakers, heating elements, and chemical compounds that suggested this wasn't just about revenge. "You've been busy since getting out," Gabriel observed. "This kind of synthetic toxin production requires significant resources." "Who's backing you?" Clarence smiled coldly. "You always were too smart for your own good. Let's just say I made some interesting friends during my incarceration. People who have long memories about American intelligence operations that cost them money." Gabriel's mind raced through the implications. This wasn't just personal revenge. Clarence had been recruited by foreign actors seeking payback for Gabriel's past operations. Tommy was just the opening move in a larger game. "The antidote, Clarence. Give it to me, and we can discuss your grievances like adults." "Oh, we're well past discussion." Clarence held up the vial. "This little beauty is a synthetic compound derived from cone snail venom, modified to cause progressive neurological damage. Very sophisticated, very expensive. And yes, this is the only antidote." Gabriel took a step closer. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand, lost the way I do. Your son is dying, Gabriel. Your wife is helpless. Your perfect little life is crumbling. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Except there's something I can do." Gabriel's voice dropped to the dangerous tone that had once terrified interrogation subjects. "I can end you." Clarence laughed. "With what? That pistol you're hiding under your jacket? I've got snipers on the surrounding buildings, Gabriel. Motion sensors on every entrance. You're not walking out of here alive." Gabriel smiled for the first time since entering the building. "You think I came here to negotiate?" Before Clarence could respond, Gabriel dove sideways behind a concrete pillar as gunfire erupted from the windows. But the shots weren't aimed at Gabriel. They were aimed at Clarence's position. The tactical team Gabriel had actually called wasn't the FBI. It was a private security firm run by his former commanding officer, Roger Patel. Clarence scrambled for cover, still clutching the antidote vial. "You son of a bitch. You led them right to me. I learned from the best," Gabriel called out as the gunfire continued. "You taught me that the key to any operation is controlling information. Everyone thinks I'm here alone, but I've been feeding coordinates to a tactical team for the past hour." Glass shattered as smoke grenades crashed through the windows. Gabriel pulled on a respirator he'd concealed in his jacket, another detail Clarence hadn't anticipated. Through the smoke, Gabriel saw Clarence stumbling toward a rear exit, still holding the vial. Gabriel couldn't let him escape with the antidote, but he also couldn't risk the vial being destroyed in the crossfire. "Clarence!" Gabriel shouted. "The building is surrounded. Give me the antidote, and I'll guarantee you make it out alive." "Go to hell, Burton!" Gabriel heard footsteps on the stairs. Clarence was making for the roof. Gabriel followed, knowing this was exactly what Clarence wanted. The roof would give him options: helicopter extraction, rooftop access to adjacent buildings, or simply a dramatic final confrontation. But Gabriel had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, even if he hadn't known it at the time. Every tactical training session, every security consultation, every night of studying his old case files had been preparation for the day his past caught up with him. The rooftop door burst open, and Clarence emerged into the dying sunlight, the antidote vial still clutched in his hand. Gabriel followed, his weapon trained on Clarence's center mass. "Nowhere left to run," Gabriel said. "I don't need to run." Clarence held the vial over the edge of the building. "Your boy dies unless you let me walk away." Gabriel calculated the distance, the wind speed, the angle of the drop. If Clarence released that vial, Tommy would die. But if Gabriel let Clarence escape, more children would die in future operations. "You know what I realized during my years in intelligence, Clarence? Sometimes there are no good choices. Sometimes you have to make the hard call and live with the consequences." Gabriel pulled the trigger. Chapter 4. The Network Unveiled. The bullet took Clarence in the shoulder, spinning him around but not dropping him. As Gabriel had calculated, the impact caused Clarence to instinctively protect the vial rather than let it fall. Clarence stumbled but kept his footing, clutching the antidote against his chest. "You bastard!" Clarence gasped, blood seeping through his jacket. "You could have killed me." "That was the warning shot," Gabriel said, his weapon still trained on Clarence. "The next one won't be." Roger Patel's tactical team emerged onto the roof, weapons drawn and ready. Roger himself appeared last, his graying beard and weathered face carrying the authority of 25 years in special operations. "Target secured," one of the operators reported through his radio. "Not quite." Gabriel kept his gun on Clarence as Roger approached. "He's got the antidote to a neurotoxin that's currently killing my son. We need him alive and talking." Roger nodded to his medic, who began treating Clarence's shoulder wound while two other operators secured him with zip ties. Clarence glared at Gabriel with pure hatred, but the fight had gone out of him. "You think this ends with me?" Clarence spat as the medic worked. "This is bigger than you know, Burton. Your son was just the beginning." Gabriel knelt beside Clarence, his voice deadly quiet. "Explain." "The people I work for now, they have long memories and deep pockets. You cost them millions in lost assets when you exposed my contacts. This was supposed to be your punishment, but it's also a demonstration." "Demonstration of what?" "What happens to American intelligence officers who interfere with their operations?" "Your son was the prototype, Gabriel. If this worked, they were going to target families of dozens of former operators." Gabriel's blood went cold. The scope of the threat was far beyond personal revenge. This was systematic terrorism targeting American intelligence families. Roger caught Gabriel's eye and nodded toward his secure phone. "We need a loop in Homeland Security and the CIA immediately, if there are other cells preparing similar operations." Gabriel took the antidote vial from the medic who had retrieved it from Clarence. The clear liquid looked innocuous enough, but it represented his son's only chance at survival. "First, we get this to Tommy," Gabriel said. "Then we tear apart Clarence's entire network." Clarence laughed, blood flecking his lips. "You think I'm the only one? There are cells in 6 major cities, Gabriel. By tomorrow night, your son won't be the only American child fighting for his life." Gabriel's phone buzzed with an urgent call from the hospital. Dr. Kelly's voice was tight with anxiety. "Gabriel, Tommy's condition is deteriorating rapidly. His neurological responses are declining, and we're seeing signs of respiratory distress." "How close are you?" 20 minutes, Gabriel replied, already moving toward the stairwell with Roger's team. "I have the antidote." But as they descended the stairs, Gabriel's mind was racing through the implications of Clarence's revelation. If other cells were preparing similar attacks, time was running out for more than just Tommy. They needed intelligence on the broader network, and they needed it fast. In the building's main floor, Roger had set up a mobile command center with secure communications equipment. Gabriel watched as his former commander contacted CIA, counterintelligence, and FBI domestic terrorism units. But he knew bureaucratic response times wouldn't match the urgency of the situation. "Roger," Gabriel said privately, "I need access to Clarence's communications and financial records. Official channels will take too long." Roger studied him for a moment, then nodded toward a secured laptop. "You never saw this equipment. And Gabriel, whatever you find, we handle it off the books until we know how deep this goes." Gabriel's fingers flew across the keyboard, using skills he'd hoped never to need again. Clarence's phone had been recovered from the factory, and Gabriel began breaking through its security layers while the tactical team prepared for transport to the hospital. Within minutes, Gabriel had accessed Clarence's encrypted communications. What he found made his stomach turn: detailed surveillance files on 12 former intelligence officers and their families, complete with home addresses, children's school schedules, and security vulnerabilities. More disturbing were the financial records showing payments from a shell company with ties to several hostile foreign intelligence services. This wasn't just revenge. It was a coordinated effort to neutralize American intelligence capabilities by targeting what operators care about most: their families. Gabriel's phone buzzed with another hospital update. Tommy's breathing was becoming increasingly labored, and his heart rate was becoming erratic. They were running out of time. "Roger, I've got what we need," Gabriel said, uploading the files to a secure server. 12 target families in 6 cities. The attacks are scheduled to begin tomorrow. Roger's face was grim as he reviewed the intelligence. We'll coordinate with federal agencies to protect the families, but Gabriel, this changes everything about your situation. You're not just a victim anymore. You're a primary intelligence asset in a national security investigation. Gabriel understood the implications. His family would never truly be safe as long as the people behind this network remained operational. Clarence was just one piece of a much larger game, and Gabriel had just painted a target on his back that would never fade. But first, he had to save his son. The convoy of vehicles raced through the city streets toward Mercy General, sirens clearing traffic as Gabriel clutched the antidote vial. In the distance, he could see other tactical teams mobilizing, the machinery of national security finally grinding into motion. Gabriel's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize, but given the circumstances, he answered. Mr. Burton? The voice was heavily accented, possibly Eastern European. My name is Lester Washington, though that is not my real name. I believe you have something that belongs to my organization. If you mean Clarence Lawrence, he's in federal custody, Gabriel replied, signaling Roger to trace the call. No, Mr. Burton. I mean the intelligence you just acquired from Mr. Lawrence's communications. You have accessed files that contain very sensitive information about ongoing operations. Gabriel's jaw clenched. Operations like poisoning American children. Regrettable but necessary demonstrations. Your government's intelligence services have cost my organization considerable resources over the years. We are simply balancing the accounts. The hospital came into view, and Gabriel could see Allison waiting in the emergency bay, her face stricken with worry and hope. Here's what's going to happen, Gabriel said into the phone. I'm going to save my son. Then I'm going to find you and everyone connected to this network. And when I do, you're going to wish you'd never heard the name Burton. The voice on the other end chuckled coldly. Mr. Burton, you are one man with a sick child and a frightened wife. We are an organization with resources spanning multiple continents. You are not equipped for this fight. Gabriel ended the call as the convoy screeched to a halt at the hospital entrance. As he ran toward the building, carrying the antidote that would save his son, one thought dominated his mind. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. Chapter 5. The Race Against Time. The pediatric intensive care unit at Mercy General buzzed with controlled chaos as Gabriel burst through the doors carrying the antidote. Tommy lay motionless on the hospital bed, surrounded by monitors and breathing apparatus, his small body dwarfed by the medical equipment keeping him alive. Dr. Kelly looked up from her charts, relief flooding her face. You found it. Synthetic cone, snail venom derivative, Gabriel said, handing over the vial. My contact says it's a direct neutralizing agent, but you'll want to verify the compound before administration. We've been running continuous blood analysis since you left, Dr. Kelly replied, already moving toward the laboratory. If this matches our projections for the toxin's molecular structure, we can begin treatment immediately. Gabriel moved to Tommy's bedside where Allison sat holding their son's small hand. Her eyes were red with exhaustion and fear, but when she saw Gabriel, hope flickered across her face. Is that really going to save him? She whispered. It has to. Gabriel kissed her forehead, then gently touched Tommy's cheek. His son's skin was pale and clammy, and his breathing was shallow despite the ventilator assistance. Dr. Kelly returned within minutes, her expression cautiously optimistic. The compound analysis looks promising. It appears to be designed specifically to counteract the neurotoxin's binding mechanism. But Gabriel, I need to be honest with you. We don't know if there will be lasting effect from the exposure he's already had. Gabriel nodded, understanding the implications. Even if they saved Tommy's life, there might be permanent neurological damage from the hours of toxin exposure. Do it, Gabriel said. Start the treatment. As Dr. Kelly prepared the antidote injection, Gabriel's secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Roger Patel. Intel suggests coordinated attacks beginning in 6 hours. Need your expertise on Lawrence's network. Critical. Gabriel showed the message to Allison, who read it with growing alarm. Other children are in danger, she said quietly. Yes. Gabriel watched as Dr. Kelly administered the antidote through Tommy's foreline. The people behind this are targeting intelligence families across the country. Tommy was just the test case. Allison was quiet for a long moment, watching the monitors for any sign of improvement in Tommy's condition. When she spoke, her voice carried a steel Gabriel hadn't heard before. Then you need to stop them. I can't leave Tommy. Not now. Gabriel, look at her son. Allison's voice was firm but gentle. He's fighting for his life, but the doctors know what to do now. Those other children, they don't have antidotes. They don't have parents who can track down the people responsible. Gabriel understood what she was asking, but the thought of leaving Tommy while his condition remained critical felt like abandoning his most important responsibility as a father. The antidote should begin showing effects within the next hour, Dr. Kelly interjected, having overheard their conversation. If his response is positive, we'll know he's going to recover. But if there are other children who don't have access to treatment. Gabriel's phone rang. Roger's voice was urgent. Gabriel, we've confirmed active surveillance on 3 target families. The attacks are moving faster than we anticipated. How quickly can you get to the command center? Gabriel looked between his unconscious son and his determined wife, understanding that the next decision would define not only their family's future, but potentially dozens of others. 30 minutes, Gabriel told Roger. But I need real-time updates on Tommy's condition. He turned to Allison. If anything changes, I'll call immediately, she promised. Gabriel, these people try to kill our son to get to you. They're going to keep coming unless you stop them permanently. Gabriel kissed Tommy's forehead, whispering a promise that he would be back soon, then headed for the door. As he left the hospital, he could see the first signs of federal response. Unmarked vehicles with government plates, agents in cheap suits try to look inconspicuous, and the subtle signs of a developing security perimeter. But Gabriel knew that official channels would be too slow and too careful. The network behind this attack had demonstrated sophisticated planning and resources. They would have contingencies for federal investigation, escape routes, and probably plans to accelerate their timeline if they felt pressured. Gabriel needed to think and act like the intelligence officer he used to be, not the concerned father he had become. Roger's mobile command center was now set up in an abandoned warehouse across the city, equipped with secure communications, analytical equipment, and a tactical planning area. When Gabriel arrived, he found a room full of familiar faces, former military and intelligence personnel who had worked with Roger over the years. Status update, Gabriel demanded as he entered. Mixed news, Roger replied, pointing to a large display screen showing a map of the United States with 12 red dots. We've managed to make contact with 8 of the target families and have them under protective custody. But 4 families have gone dark. We can't reach them, and local law enforcement reports their homes appear empty. Gabriel studied the map, noting the geographic distribution of the targets. They're not random selections. Look at the pattern. Every target is within 50 miles of a major port or international airport. This isn't just about revenge or demonstration. They're planning something bigger. Agent Terrence Costello entered the command center, followed by 2 other federal agents. Gabriel had worked with Costello during several joint operations and trusted him more than most government officials. Burton, Costello nodded grimly. We've been monitoring communications intercepts related to this network. There's chatter suggesting a major operation plan for tomorrow night, but we can't determine the target or nature of the attack. Gabriel moved to the communications analysis station, where Clarence's decoded files were displayed across multiple monitors. As he studied the data, patterns began to emerge that the federal analysts had missed. It's not about the families, Gabriel realized. The poisoned children are psychological warfare, but they're also logistical cover. Explain, Roger said. Gabriel pointed to financial transactions highlighted in the files. Look at the timing and amounts. Major payments were made to shipping companies, customs officials, and warehouse facilities in all 12 cities. The family attacks create chaos and draw federal resources away from ports and airports. Costello leaned forward, understanding dawning on his face. They're smuggling something. The children are a distraction from a much larger operation. Weapons, intelligence assets, personnel, could be anything, Gabriel agreed. But whatever it is, it's happening tomorrow night while federal resources are focused on protecting families and investigating the poisoning attacks. Roger's tactical display showed real-time positions of federal agents and local law enforcement across the 12 target cities. As Gabriel had predicted, the majority of resources were concentrated on residential areas and hospitals, leaving minimal coverage for transportation infrastructure. Gabriel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your son is lucky to have such a dedicated father. Soon you will understand the true scope of our capabilities. Gabriel showed the message to the room. They're monitoring us. Our communications, our movements, probably our tactical responses. How is that possible? Costello demanded. These are secure channels. Gabriel was already moving toward the communications equipment, because Clarence wasn't their only asset in American intelligence. They got someone on the inside. As if summoned by Gabriel's words, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. Roger's voice cut through the noise. We've got incoming missiles. All personnel, take cover. But Gabriel was already diving toward the secure communications array, not for cover, but to send one final message to the hospital. Tommy's antidote is working. His vitals are stabilizing. Even as the building shook with the impact of the first explosion, Gabriel smiled. His son was going to live. Now, Gabriel could focus on making sure the people responsible for all of this wouldn't. Chapter 6. The Inside Betrayal. The explosion shattered the windows and knocked out power throughout the warehouse. But the missile had been a warning shot, close enough to demonstrate capability without killing everyone inside. Emergency lighting flickered on as Roger's team conducted a rapid head count and damage assessment. Everyone accounted for, one of the operators reported. Minimal casualties, but our communications array is down. Gabriel brushed concrete dust from his jacket and helped Agent Costello to his feet. The older man had taken a hard fall, but seemed uninjured except for his pride. That wasn't random, Gabriel observed, studying the impact pattern. They knew our exact location and hit us with surgical precision. We got a leak. Roger was already thinking the same thing. This facility was classified. Only 6 people knew we were operating out of here. Gabriel counted the people in the room. Himself, Roger, Costello, and 3 tactical operators. But there had been others involved in the setup and coordination, communication specialists, intelligence analysts, federal liaisons. Agent Costello, Gabriel said carefully, who else has access to your operational communications? Costello's face darkened as he understood the implication. You think there's a federal insider? I think Clarence Lawrence wasn't their only asset in American intelligence. This network has been planning for years, and they've had time to recruit or compromise additional sources. Gabriel's personal phone rang, his hospital line. Dr. Kelly's voice was excited. Gabriel, Tommy's responding to the antidote. His neurological function is improving rapidly, and we're seeing normal brain activity patterns returning. Relief flooded through Gabriel, but he kept his voice steady. How long until full recovery? If the progression continues, he should be out of critical condition within 12 hours. Gabriel, he's going to be fine. Gabriel closed his eyes momentarily, allowing himself to feel the weight of that victory. His son would survive, but the war was far from over. Roger, I need a secure line to my CIA contact, Gabriel said. If there's an insider feeding information to this network, we need to control what intelligence gets shared with federal agencies. Before Roger could respond, his satellite phone rang. The caller ID showed Gabriel's own phone number. Gabriel frowned. That's impossible. My phone is right here. Roger answered cautiously. This is Patel. Mr. Patel, came a familiar voice, the same Eastern European accent from Gabriel's earlier call. I believe you have something of mine. Mr. Lawrence was an employee, and I would like him returned. Who is this? Roger demanded. My name is Lester Washington, though, as I told Mr. Burton, that is not my real name. I represent certain interests that have been disrupted by your activities. Gabriel moved close to the phone. How did you get my number to spoof? Mr. Burton, you underestimate our resources. We have access to information you cannot imagine. For instance, we know that your son is recovering nicely from his ordeal. We also know about the 4 families you haven't located yet. Gabriel's blood went cold. What about them? They are safe for now, but their continued safety depends on your cooperation. You will release Mr. Lawrence and provide us with the intelligence files you recovered from his communications. In exchange, the 4 missing families will be returned unharmed. Roger was frantically signaling his communications team to trace the call, but Gabriel knew it was pointless. These people had demonstrated sophisticated technical capabilities along with their operational expertise. What guarantee do we have that you'll honor the exchange? Gabriel asked. You have no guarantees, Mr. Burton, but you do have certainties. If you refuse, the families die. If you attempt to locate them through official channels, they die. If you involve additional federal agencies, they die. The only variable is whether you trust us to honor our agreement. Gabriel looked around the room at the faces of people who had risked their lives to help him save his son. Now he was being asked to potentially sacrifice other families to protect the intelligence that might prevent future attacks. I need proof of life, Gabriel said. Check your email. Gabriel accessed his secure email account and found a video file showing 4 families, including children, bound but apparently unharmed in what looked like a warehouse environment. A timestamp showed the recording was made less than an hour ago. You have until tomorrow at midnight to make the exchange, Lester Washington continued. The location will be provided 6 hours before the deadline. Mr. Burton, do not disappoint me. The consequences would be educational. The line went dead. Roger looked at Gabriel with grim understanding. They've got us in an impossible position. No, Gabriel said, his mind already working through alternatives. They think they've got us in an impossible position, but they made one critical mistake. Agent Costello looked up from his damaged equipment. What's that? Gabriel smiled coldly, the same expression he'd worn during his most successful intelligence operations. They assumed I would play by their rules. Gabriel turned to Roger's tactical team. I need everything you have on warehouse and shipping facilities in this metropolitan area. Cross-reference with the financial data from Clarence's files. Gabriel, what are you thinking? Roger asked. I'm thinking that Lester Washington and his organization have been planning this operation for months, maybe years. They've positioned assets, established safe houses, and created escape routes. But they've also created vulnerabilities. Gabriel moved to the intelligence analysis station and began pulling up satellite imagery of the city. They're holding 4 families hostage, which means they need a significant facility with security, utilities, and isolation. They also need to maintain operational security for their primary mission, whatever they're smuggling through the ports tomorrow night. You think you can find them? Costello asked. I think they've already shown me where they are. Gabriel highlighted several locations on the map where financial transactions from Clarence's files intersected with suitable facilities. The warehouse in this video, I've seen this type of industrial lighting and ceiling configuration before. It's consistent with converted shipping facilities from the 1980s. There are only 6 facilities in this area that match those specifications. Roger was already coordinating reconnaissance of the identified locations. Even if you're right, Gabriel, we can't assault all 6 simultaneously without federal resources. And if there is an insider, any federal involvement tips them off. Gabriel was quiet for a moment, then looked at his phone, showing Tommy's improving condition. His son would live. Other children might not be so lucky if this network continued operating. Then we don't use federal resources, Gabriel said. We handle this ourselves. Gabriel, Agent Costello interrupted. What you're suggesting could be construed as vigilante action. I can't officially sanction. Then don't officially sanction it. Gabriel cut him off. Agent Costello, you've known me for 8 years. When have I ever failed to complete a mission? Costello was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. What do you need? Gabriel looked around the room at the faces of people who had already risked everything to help him. I need 6 hours, tactical equipment, and people willing to trust me one more time. Roger clasped Gabriel's shoulder. You've got it all. Gabriel's phone buzzed with another hospital update. Tommy was asking for his daddy. The antidote had worked completely. His son would make a full recovery. Now it was time to make sure no other families would have to endure what they'd been through. Chapter 7. The Counterattack. Gabriel stood in the pre-dawn darkness outside Warehouse Complex 7, watching through night vision scopes as Roger's reconnaissance team confirmed the target. The converted shipping facility matched every detail from the hostage video, and thermal imaging showed approximately 15 heat signatures inside, 4 family groups clustered in one area, and multiple guards positioned throughout the building. Confirmed, Roger's voice crackled through Gabriel's earpiece. 4 families, looks like 8 adults and 6 children. Security detail of 7 hostiles, plus at least 2 more in overwatch positions. Gabriel checked his equipment one final time. Tactical body armor, suppressed pistol, breaching charges, and communications gear. This wasn't the kind of operation he'd planned to run again after leaving intelligence work, but Lester Washington's network had made it personal when they targeted Tommy. "Remember," Gabriel said to the 5-man team assembled around him, "our primary objective is hostage rescue. Intelligence gathering is secondary, and prisoner capture is lowest priority. These people tried to murder children. We're not taking unnecessary risks to preserve their lives." Agent Costello's voice came through the secure channel from his mobile coordination center. "Gabriel, we've intercepted communications suggesting accelerated timeline for whatever operation is planned at the ports. You may have less time than anticipated." "Understood. Initiating assault in 60 seconds. Gabriel's team moved into position around the warehouse perimeter. The building was isolated in an industrial district, surrounded by empty lots and abandoned structures. Perfect for a clandestine operation, but also ideal for a tactical assault without civilian casualties. "Breacher, you're clear," Gabriel whispered into his radio. The explosive charge on the main entrance detonated with a muffled thump, immediately followed by flashbang grenades through the windows. Gabriel and his team flowed through the breach points with practiced precision, moving through the warehouse like ghosts. The first guard went down to Gabriel's suppressed pistol before he could raise an alarm. The second guard was eliminated by Roger's sniper from an elevated position. Within 90 seconds, Gabriel's team had neutralized 6 of the 7 security personnel and was moving toward the hostage area. "Families located," one of the operators reported. "They appear unharmed, but restrained." Gabriel rounded a corner and came face to face with Lester Washington, or at least the man who had been using that name. He was younger than Gabriel had expected, maybe early 30s, with a lean build and alert eyes of professional military training. "Mr. Burton," the man said calmly, despite having a gun pointed at his head. "You are more resourceful than we anticipated. Where's the 7th guard?" Gabriel asked, noting that the thermal count had been off by 1. The man smiled. "What 7th guard?" Gabriel's tactical instincts screamed a warning just as he heard Roger's voice in his earpiece. "Gabriel, we've got incoming vehicles. Multiple contacts approaching from the south." Through the warehouse windows, Gabriel could see the headlights of at least 6 vehicles converging on their position. The hostage rescue had been the trap. Lester Washington's organization had used the families as bait to draw Gabriel and his team into a kill zone. "You see, Mr. Burton," the man continued conversationally, "we needed to eliminate your interference permanently. The families were never the real objective." Gabriel calculated odds and distances. His team was scattered throughout the warehouse, focused on hostage evacuation. The incoming vehicles probably carried 20 or more hostile operators with tactical equipment and superior firepower. "All units, defensive positions," Gabriel ordered. "Priority is hostage protection. We hold until extraction is available." But even as he gave the orders, Gabriel knew they were in serious trouble. The warehouse had limited defensive positions, multiple entry points, and no easy escape routes. They had walked into exactly the kind of ambush that had claimed the lives of too many good operators over the years. Gabriel's phone buzzed with an incoming text from the hospital. "Tommy awake and asking for Daddy. Full recovery confirmed." Gabriel stared at the message for a moment, then looked at the man who had orchestrated the attack on his family. All the tactical considerations and strategic calculations faded into background noise. His son was safe. These hostages would be safe. And the network that threatened American families was about to learn what happened when they targeted Gabriel Burton's child. "Roger," Gabriel said into his radio, his voice carrying deadly calm. "Change of plans. We're not defending. We're attacking." Gabriel shot Lester Washington through the knee, dropping him but keeping him alive for interrogation. Then he turned toward the approaching vehicles and began moving through the warehouse like a man with nothing left to lose. The first vehicle to reach the warehouse entrance met Gabriel's breaching charge head-on. The explosion flipped the SUV and blocked the main entrance, forcing the remaining vehicles to disperse around the building's perimeter. Gabriel moved through the warehouse systematically, using every piece of cover and concealment while picking off hostile operators one by one. His years of intelligence training had prepared him for exactly this kind of asymmetric combat. Outnumbered, surrounded, but fighting on his own terms in an environment he controlled. "Gabriel," Roger's voice carried concern. "Your position is being overrun. We need to extract now." "Negative," Gabriel replied, reloading his pistol while crouched behind industrial machinery. "These people tried to kill my son. They threatened 12 families. They're not walking away from this." Gabriel heard footsteps approaching his position and prepared for the next engagement. But instead of hostile operators, he saw one of the rescued children, a girl, maybe 8 years old, peeking around a corner. "It's okay," Gabriel said gently. "Your family is safe. Stay with the other families until my friends come to get you." The child nodded and disappeared back toward the secure area where Roger's team was protecting hostages. Gabriel felt a moment of clarity watching her go. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about ensuring that no other children would have to experience what Tommy had gone through. Gabriel's phone rang. Agent Costello's voice was urgent. "Gabriel, we've identified the port operation. They're smuggling weapons-grade plutonium through 3 separate shipping facilities. If this material reaches its intended targets, we're looking at potential dirty bomb attacks in major population centers." Gabriel absorbed this information while engaging 2 more hostile operators. The scope of the threat was even larger than they'd realized. The poisoned children had been a distraction from weapons of mass destruction smuggling. "How much time do we have?" Gabriel asked. "The shipments are moving tonight. If they leave the ports, we may never recover them." Gabriel looked around the warehouse at the tactical situation. His team was secure with the hostages. The majority of hostile operators had been neutralized, and Lester Washington was wounded but alive for interrogation. The immediate threat was contained. But the larger threat, the network's primary operation, was still active. Gabriel had to make a choice: continue the tactical engagement here or shift focus to the weapons smuggling. "Roger," Gabriel called. "Can your team handle extraction and cleanup here?" "Affirmative." "Where are you going?" Gabriel was already moving toward the warehouse exit, checking his ammunition and communications equipment. "To finish this." Chapter 8, The Port Assault. Gabriel's phone showed 11:47 p.m. as he approached the port of Long Beach in a commandeered motorcycle, racing against the midnight departure of 3 cargo ships carrying weapons-grade plutonium. Agent Costello's intelligence had identified the vessels and their berths, but federal agencies were still hours away from coordinating a response. Gabriel couldn't wait for official authorization. The radioactive material aboard those ships represented the potential for mass casualties that dwarfed even the poisoned children attacks. Every minute of delay increased the likelihood that the shipments would reach international waters and disappear into the global black market. His earpiece crackled with Roger's voice. "Hostage extraction complete. Lester Washington is in federal custody and talking." "Gabriel, the scope of this network is massive. Cells in 12 countries, funding from multiple hostile governments, and operational plans targeting American infrastructure for the next 5 years." Gabriel parked the motorcycle in the shadows of Warehouse District 9 and surveyed the port facility through night vision binoculars. The 3 target ships were positioned at adjacent berths, with cargo loading operations continuing under floodlights. Security was heavy but focused outward. They weren't expecting a single-person assault from inside the port perimeter. "Roger, I need real-time intelligence on the plutonium containers. Location, security, and any protective measures." According to Washington's intel, The material is divided among 12 shipping containers across the 3 vessels. Each container is rigged with conventional explosives designed to disperse the radioactive material if tampered with improperly. Gabriel absorbed this information while studying the loading patterns. The containers were being moved by crane from the dock to the ship holds, creating brief windows of vulnerability during transfer. But those windows lasted only minutes, and there were too many containers to disable individually. Gabriel's secure phone buzzed with a text from Allison. Tommy fully awake and demanding pancakes. Doctors say complete recovery. When are you coming home? Gabriel stared at the message, feeling the weight of the choice before him. He could walk away now, return to his family, and let federal agencies handle the plutonium threat through official channels. His son was safe, the immediate threat to other families had been neutralized, and his personal vendetta was complete. But the radioactive material represented a threat to thousands of families, including his own. As long as that plutonium remained in hostile hands, no American family would truly be safe. Gabriel typed back, soon. Tell Tommy that Daddy loves him and is making sure no other children get hurt. Gabriel switched his radio to an encrypted channel and contacted his old CIA handler, Maurice Yates, who is now Deputy Director of Operations. Maurice, it's Gabriel Burton. I need immediate authorization for a tactical operation at Long Beach Port. Maurice's voice was cautious. Gabriel, you're not officially operational anymore. What's your status? I'm looking at 3 cargo ships about to depart with weapons-grade plutonium stolen from American facilities. The material is destined for terrorist cells in multiple countries, and federal response is hours away. Jesus Christ, Gabriel. Can you confirm the intelligence? Confirm through interrogation of captured network operatives. Maurice, these people poisoned my son as part of this operation. I've been tracking them for 18 hours, and this is their endgame. There was a pause as Maurice processed the implications. Gabriel, even if I could authorize unilateral action, you're one person against an entire shipping operation. The risk of casualties is acceptable compared to the risk of letting weapons-grade plutonium reach terrorist networks, Gabriel finished. Maurice, you know my operational record. When have I ever failed to complete a mission? Another pause. What do you need? Official deniability and emergency response teams standing by for radiological cleanup. I'll handle the tactical elements. Gabriel, this is insane. But if you're right about the plutonium, you have unofficial authorization. Try not to start a war. Gabriel ended the call and began moving through the port facility toward the target ships. His plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Disable the conventional explosives on each container, then prevent the ships from departing until federal agencies could secure the radioactive material. The first ship was a converted cargo vessel with minimal security. Most of the protection was provided by the port facility itself. Gabriel eliminated 2 guards silently and made his way to the container holds. Using technical skills learned during his intelligence years, he began disabling the explosive devices attached to 4 plutonium containers. The work required absolute precision. One mistake would trigger a conventional explosion that would disperse radioactive material across the port facility and surrounding residential areas. Gabriel's hands were steady, but he was acutely aware that hundreds of thousands of lives depended on his technical skills. Gabriel's earpiece activated with Agent Costello's voice. Gabriel, we're seeing increased activity at the port. Additional security personnel are converging on your position. Gabriel finished disabling the last explosive device on the first ship and moved toward the second vessel. Understood. How much time until federal backup arrives? Minimum 45 minutes for tactical teams. Radiological specialists are still 2 hours out. Gabriel reached the second ship and began the delicate process of disabling explosives on another 4 plutonium containers. But as he worked, he could hear security teams conducting systematic searches of the adjacent berths. Time was running out. Gabriel's phone rang with a call from Lester Washington's number. Gabriel answered, knowing it wasn't Washington calling. Mr. Burton, came a new voice with a Russian accent. My name is Carl Villanueva, and I believe you have interfered with our operation long enough. Where's Washington? Mr. Washington has provided federal authorities with extensive cooperation. Very disappointing, but not unexpected. We always knew he was a weak link in the organization. Gabriel continued working on the explosive devices while talking. So you're cleaning house? We are adapting. Mr. Burton, you have disabled our contingency measures on 2 of our shipments. Most impressive, but the 3rd ship has already departed, carrying 4 containers of material that will reach very motivated buyers within the week. Gabriel looked toward the harbor entrance and saw lights from a departing cargo vessel. He'd been too late to stop 1/3 of the plutonium shipment. However, Carl Villanueva continued, I am prepared to provide you with the location and specifications of that material in exchange for your withdrawal from the port facility. Gabriel paused in his work. Why would you do that? Because, Mr. Burton, this operation was never about the plutonium. The radioactive material was, how do you say, proof of concept, a demonstration to potential clients of our capabilities. Whether we deliver the material or you recover it, we have already achieved our primary objective. Gabriel's mind raced through the implications. The entire operation, the poisoned children, the plutonium smuggling, even the network of cells across multiple countries, had been an elaborate advertisement for this organization's services. What's the real operation? Gabriel asked. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Burton, your son's hospital will receive a very special delivery. Emergency medical supplies contaminated with a variant of the same neurotoxin that nearly killed your child. The supplies will be distributed to pediatric facilities across the country within 72 hours. Gabriel's blood turned to ice. Even if he saved the plutonium, stopped the current operation, and neutralized the network, they had already positioned their next attack to target the medical facilities treating sick children. You have a choice, Mr. Burton, Carl Villanueva continued. Continue your heroic assault on our shipping operation while hundreds of hospitalized children are poisoned. Or work with us to ensure both threats are neutralized. Gabriel stared at the explosive device in his hands, realizing that every choice he made seemed to lead to more impossible decisions. But as he thought about Tommy recovering in his hospital bed, surrounded by other sick children who deserved the same chance at life, Gabriel's resolve hardened. I have a better idea, Gabriel said. I'm going to stop your plutonium shipment and your hospital supply operation. Then I'm going to find you and personally ensure you never threaten another child. Gabriel disabled the last explosive device on the 2nd ship and began moving toward the dock where the 3rd vessel had been moored. If he could prevent the departing ship from reaching international waters, federal authorities might still be able to intercept the remaining plutonium. Carl Villanueva's laughter was cold through the phone. Mr. Burton, you continue to underestimate the scope of our operation. But perhaps it is time you understood the true cost of your interference. The line went dead, and Gabriel's secure phone immediately rang with a call from the hospital. Chapter 9, The Final Gambit. Gabriel answered the hospital call while sprinting toward a port security boat, his mind calculating distances and timing. Dr. Kelly's voice was tight with controlled panic. Gabriel, we've had a breach in our supply storage. Someone accessed our emergency medical supply room and contaminated several packages with an unknown substance. We've locked down the pediatric ward, but Tommy and 6 other children may have been exposed. Gabriel's world narrowed to a single point of focus. Carl Villanueva had played his final card, striking directly at the children Gabriel was trying to protect. The plutonium shipment suddenly became secondary to the immediate threat to his son and other hospitalized children. Dr. Kelly, isolate everyone who had contact with those supplies and begin the same treatment protocol we used for Tommy's original poisoning. The antidote compound should be effective against variant toxins. Gabriel reached the port security boat and began hot-wiring the ignition system. Through his earpiece, he could hear Roger coordinating federal response teams, but everyone was reacting to multiple simultaneous threats, exactly what Carl Villanueva had intended. Gabriel, Agent Costello's voice crackled through static. The departing cargo vessel is 12 miles out and accelerating toward international waters. Coast Guard cutters are moving to intercept, but they're 40 minutes behind. Gabriel got the boat engine started and began racing through the harbor toward open ocean. The security boat wasn't designed for high-speed pursuit, but it was faster than the heavily loaded cargo vessel carrying the plutonium. His phone buzzed with a text from Allison. "Tommy is okay. New antidote working." "But Gabriel, they evacuated the entire children's hospital. Whatever you're doing, please come home." Gabriel pushed the boat's engine to maximum power, feeling spray from the bow waves as he cut through the dark water. In the distance, he could see the cargo ship's lights moving steadily away from shore. Every minute of delay increased the likelihood that the plutonium would disappear into international waters. Gabriel's tactical radio activated with Maurice Yates' voice. "Gabriel, Coast Guard is reporting they can't intercept the cargo vessel before it reaches international waters. Can you overtake it?" "Affirmative, but barely," Gabriel replied, calculating speed and distance. "Maurice, I need authorization for direct action against the vessel." "Gabriel, that ship is flying under a foreign flag with potentially innocent crew members. Rules of engagement are..." "The rules of engagement changed when they tried to poison my son twice in one day." Gabriel cut him off. "Maurice, that plutonium represents more than just dirty bomb potential. If this network demonstrates they can successfully smuggle weapons-grade material, every terrorist organization in the world will want to hire them." Gabriel could see the cargo ship more clearly now, its bulk silhouetted against the horizon. The vessel was moving faster than he'd expected, suggesting they had modified the engines for this specific operation. Gabriel's phone rang with Carl Villanueva's number again. "Mr. Burton, I trust you received our message regarding the hospital supplies?" "My son is fine," Gabriel replied, steering the security boat through increasingly rough seas. "Your poison didn't work." "Ah, but Mr. Burton, that was not the real message. The real message is that we can reach your family anywhere, anytime, through any means. Even if you stop this particular shipment, even if you capture every member of our current network, we will continue to exist. We will continue to threaten the people you care about." Gabriel was within a quarter-mile of the cargo ship now, close enough to see crew members moving on deck. Some were carrying what looked like military-grade weapons, confirming that this wasn't a legitimate shipping operation. "Here's my message," Gabriel said. "I don't negotiate with people who poison children." Gabriel pulled alongside the cargo ship and activated the security boat's emergency boarding ramp, a hydraulic system designed to allow Coast Guard inspections of larger vessels. As the ramp locked onto the cargo ship's hull, Gabriel heard automatic weapons fire from the deck above. Gabriel climbed onto the cargo ship while bullets sparked off metal surfaces around him. His years of tactical training took over as he moved through the vessel systematically, neutralizing hostile crew members while searching for the plutonium containers. The ship's hold contained dozens of shipping containers, but Gabriel was looking for specific markings that would identify the radioactive material. According to Lester Washington's intelligence, the containers were labeled as industrial equipment, but would show elevated radiation readings on any detection equipment. Gabriel found the first container and confirmed radioactive signatures using a detection device he'd taken from the port facility. But as he prepared to disable the container's protective systems, he heard helicopter rotors approaching from the direction of shore. Carl Villanueva's voice came through the ship's intercom system. "Mr. Burton, you have performed admirably, but this ends now. The helicopter approaching your position carries sufficient explosives to sink this vessel and disperse the radioactive material across several square miles of ocean. Your choice is simple. Abandon the ship immediately or die with it." Gabriel looked up through a porthole and saw the helicopter hovering overhead, its cargo bay doors open to reveal what looked like depth charges or similar explosive devices. Gabriel's secure phone rang with Roger's voice. "Gabriel, Coast Guard has visual on your position. They're reporting a helicopter in attack posture above your vessel." "Roger, how far out is federal backup?" 20 minutes for Coast Guard cutters, but Gabriel, if that helicopter drops explosives on a ship carrying plutonium. Gabriel understood the implications. The resulting contamination would affect shipping lanes, fishing areas, and potentially coastal populations. Carl Villanueva, was forcing Gabriel to choose between recovering the plutonium and preventing an environmental disaster. But Gabriel had learned something during his years in intelligence. Sometimes the best tactical decision was to refuse to accept the enemy's framework for the battle. Gabriel activated the cargo ship's emergency communication system and broadcast on all maritime frequencies. Mayday, Mayday. This is Gabriel Burton aboard cargo vessel. Mayday. This vessel is carrying weapons-grade plutonium and is under attack by hostile aircraft. Request immediate assistance from any vessels in the area. Within minutes, Gabriel's radio exploded with responses from Coast Guard cutters, Navy vessels, commercial ships, and even private boats in the area. Carl Villanueva's helicopter suddenly found itself the center of attention from multiple radar systems and potential witnesses. Gabriel heard the helicopter moving away from the cargo ship, and Carl Villanueva's voice came through his phone. "Clever, Mr. Burton, but you have only delayed the inevitable." "No," Gabriel replied, watching Coast Guard cutters approaching from multiple directions. "I've ended it." As federal agents boarded the cargo ship and began securing the plutonium containers, Gabriel received a final text from the hospital. All children fully recovered. Tommy asking when you're coming home to read him a bedtime story. Gabriel smiled for the first time in 24 hours. The plutonium was secure, the network was broken, and his family was safe. Carl Villanueva and his organization had learned the hard way what happened when they threatened Gabriel Burton's child. 3 weeks later, Gabriel sat in Tommy's bedroom reading, where the wild things are, while his son drifted off to sleep, clutching a new teddy bear. This one thoroughly inspected and approved by Ben Foster. Through the window, Gabriel could see federal agents maintaining their security perimeter, a reminder that some threats took time to fully neutralize. But for now, his family was safe, other families were protected, and the network that had targeted American children was facing the full weight of international law enforcement. Gabriel kissed Tommy's forehead and whispered, "Sweet dreams, buddy. Daddy made sure the monsters can't hurt you anymore." Tommy smiled in his sleep, and Gabriel knew that sometimes the most important battles were fought not for country or principle, but for the simple right of children to grow up safe and loved. The war was over. Gabriel had won. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.